For centuries, a fiery secret lay hidden beneath the earth, a treasure so potent it would redefine a nation's palate. Imagine a kingdom, steeped in tradition, suddenly embracing a vibrant, intoxicating heat that would become its defining culinary characteristic. This wasn't a foreign invasion, but an agricultural revolution, a slow burn that ignited a culinary identity. Welcome, and prepare to embark on a fascinating journey into the very origins of Korea's love affair with spice. We'll uncover the surprising historical forces, the cultural exchanges, and the remarkable agricultural discoveries that transformed Korean cuisine from its ancient roots into the bold, exhilarating flavor we know and crave today. Imagine, if you will, a land steeped in tradition, a peninsula jutting out into the vastness of the East Asian Ocean. For centuries, its people lived by the rhythm of the seasons, their lives intertwined with the earth. They cultivated rice, fished the bountiful seas, and gathered the fruits of the forest. Their cuisine, like their lives, was one of balance, of subtle flavors, of harmony. But then, something changed. Something fundamental. A culinary revolution, born not of a king's decree or a scholar's treatise, but from a spark, a single, transformative ingredient that would forever alter the taste of a nation. This is the story of Korea, and its fiery, unyielding obsession with spice. Look at this plate. A vibrant tapestry of color. Kimchi, fermented cabbage, its ruby-red hue a promise of the intensity within. Tteokbokki, chewy rice cakes swimming in a molten orange sauce, a street food that ignites the senses. Even the simplest bowl of bibimbap, a humble mix of rice, vegetables, and meat, is often crowned with a dollop of gochujang, a deep crimson paste that delivers a potent kick. This isn't just food, it's a declaration. It's a defiant embrace of heat, a testament to a people who learned to thrive not just in spite of adversity, but by actively seeking out and savoring the very things that challenge them. But how did this fiery passion ignite? How did a cuisine once defined by delicate, nuanced flavors transform into one that actively courts the burn? To understand Korea's love affair with spice, we must travel back, far beyond the kimchi pots and street food stalls, to a time when chili peppers were not yet a part of the Korean culinary landscape. We're talking about a Korea where the primary source of heat came from black pepper, ginger, and perhaps the occasional mustard seed. A palette of flavors far more restrained, far more mild. The idea of intentionally inducing a burning sensation, of seeking out a culinary challenge that makes your eyes water and your tongue tingle, would have been utterly foreign. So, what was the catalyst? What force, what arrival, could possibly shift an entire nation's palate so dramatically? It was not a gradual evolution, but a sudden, almost violent introduction. An import that would travel across oceans and continents, carried by unlikely emissaries, to land on Korean shores and irrevocably change the course of its culinary history. This wasn't a natural progression. This was an invasion of flavor, an unexpected guest that, once welcomed, refused to leave. But to understand how this fiery newcomer became so deeply ingrained, so essential to the very identity of Korean food, we need to ask ourselves, what was it about this new spice that resonated so profoundly with the Korean spirit? What deeper needs did it fulfill, and what secrets did it unlock in the heart of this ancient land? The fire was coming, and Korea was about to get a taste of its own. For centuries, the Korean peninsula was a land of subtle flavors. Fermented soybean paste, Gochujang, provided a savory depth. Kimchi, early versions, offered a tangy crunch. Fish sauces lent umami. But heat, fire, it was a whisper, not a roar. Imagine Joseon Dynasty Korea. Rice paddies stretched to the horizon, farmers toiling under a summer sun. In bustling marketplaces, traders hawk their wares, dried fish, salted vegetables, mountain herbs. The air is thick with the scent of sesame oil and garlic, but the sharp, burning sting of chili? It's conspicuously absent. This wasn't negligence. It was a matter of geography and history. The Korean peninsula, for all its agricultural bounty, was isolated. Its culinary traditions developed organically, rooted in ingredients readily available and cultivated for generations. Then, a foreign spice began its slow, almost imperceptible journey across continents. It arrived not with fanfare, but on the swaying ships of Portuguese traders in the 16th century. They brought with them a botanical marvel from the New World, the chili pepper. It was a plant that would, in time, fundamentally reshape Korean identity, but its introduction was far from a triumphant conquest of the palate. Initially, these new peppers, so unlike anything Koreans had ever known, were met with curiosity, perhaps even suspicion. How did they taste? What was their texture? Early accounts, scarce as they are, suggest a cautious reception. They were exotic, certainly, but their searing heat was a shock to a culinary system accustomed to nuance. Think of a Joseon dynasty scholar, meticulously recording the flora and fauna of his land. He might note the arrival of this foreign pepper, perhaps describing its fiery bite with detached scientific observation. But would he foresee its eventual dominance? Would he imagine it becoming the very soul of a national dish? It's unlikely. The chili pepper was a ghost in the kitchen, an unknown quantity. It was a plant with a powerful, almost aggressive, flavor profile that had to be understood, adapted, and integrated. This wasn't a simple addition of a new ingredient. It was a challenge to the established order of taste. The early adoption was slow, geographically uneven. Coastal regions, with their greater exposure to foreign trade, might have encountered it sooner. Inland communities, more traditional and self-sufficient, might have remained insulated for decades, even centuries. The adoption wasn't a unified national awakening, but a series of individual encounters, family experiments, and regional adaptations. But here's the riddle. How did this initially foreign, potentially intimidating spice transform from a mere curiosity into the undisputed king of Korean flavor? How did it move from the fringes of the pantry to the very heart of the table? The journey was fraught with challenges, with skepticism, and with the inherent difficulty of changing deeply ingrained culinary habits. The stage was set for a revolution, but the revolution's leader, the fiery chili pepper, was still a stranger in a land that didn't yet know it craved its heat. The question loomed, could this foreign interloper truly conquer the Korean palate and redefine its very essence? For millennia, Korean life was a precarious dance with the seasons. The land, though fertile, demanded backbreaking labor, and survival often hung by a thread. But a revolution was stirring, not in palaces or battlefields, but in the humble fields. This was the dawn of the agricultural revolution, a period that would fundamentally reshape not just what Koreans ate, but how they ate, laying the groundwork for the fiery flavors we know today. Imagine the scene: generations tilling the same soil, relying on the same meager harvests. Rice, the undisputed king, was the staple, but it was a demanding crop, vulnerable to drought and flood. Other grains, like barley and millet, offered a less glamorous but more reliable sustenance. Vegetables were seasonal, gathered from the wild or grown in small, cherished patches. Life was, in a word, plain. Then, a subtle shift. New techniques, perhaps borrowed from neighboring lands or born from Korean ingenuity, began to take root. The introduction of iron tools, stronger plows, and more efficient irrigation systems meant more land could be cultivated, and with greater certainty. This wasn't just about farming, it was about the very possibility of surplus. For the first time, communities weren't just surviving, they were thriving. And with this newfound abundance came a crucial realization: variety. As the ability to grow more food increased, so did the experimentation. Farmers, no longer solely focused on the next meal, began to cultivate new crops, plants that could offer not just calories, but character. Among these, a humble chili pepper, a relative newcomer to Korean shores, began to make its presence felt. It arrived, likely through trade routes, a small, unassuming fruit from distant lands. At first, it was a curiosity, perhaps a medicinal herb, or a novelty to be added to stews in tiny quantities. But its potent properties, its ability to transform blandness into boldness, began to be noticed. Early accounts, like those found in agricultural treatises from the Joseon dynasty, describe its cultivation with a mixture of caution and intrigue. They speak of its warmth, its heat, a sensation entirely alien to the palate of a people accustomed to the subtle, the savory, the sweet. This wasn't just about adding spice, it was about adding life. The chili pepper offered a way to preserve food through the harsh winters, a way to make the most of every harvest. It was a culinary rebellion, a delicious defiance against the tyranny of blandness. As these peppers spread from farm to village, from kitchen to kitchen, a transformation began, slow and subtle at first, then gathering an unstoppable momentum. But this agricultural boom, this blossoming of flavor, brought its own set of challenges. The reliance on certain crops, the introduction of new agricultural techniques, the very social structures that supported this burgeoning food culture, all of it was about to face a monumental upheaval. The world outside Korea was changing, and its storms were about to break upon these fertile shores. The humble chili pepper, once a mere curiosity, was about to become a symbol of resilience in the face of unprecedented adversity. What would happen when this fiery bloom met the harsh winds of war and invasion? For centuries, Korean palates had been shaped by the earth's bounty, the salty tang of fermented soy, the subtle sweetness of rice, the pungent bite of garlic. But a new force was stirring, a crimson tide that would forever alter the course of Korean cuisine. This wasn't a sudden revolution, but a slow, deliberate infiltration, a secret handshake passed between traders and farmers, a handshake that bore the fiery signature of chili. The arrival of the chili pepper in Korea, likely in the late 16th century, was no accident. It was a product of a global network, a spiderweb of trade routes spun by ambitious empires. Portuguese carracks, laden with goods from the New World, docked in ports across Asia, introducing this vibrant, potent fruit to new lands. And Korea, with its burgeoning trade with Japan and China, was perfectly positioned to receive it. Imagine the scene, a bustling port, perhaps Nampo or Busan, the air thick with the scent of salt, fish, and exotic spices. Merchants, their faces weathered by sun and sea, haggle over bolts of silk, porcelain, and the latest curiosities from distant shores. Among these treasures, tucked away in sacks and crates, were the unassuming chili peppers. Initially, they were likely viewed with suspicion, a novelty, perhaps even a curiosity for the wealthy elite. But the magic of the chili wasn't just in its novelty, it was in its adaptability. It thrived in Korea's varied climate, its fiery fruits ripening under the summer sun. And as it spread, it began to weave itself into the very fabric of Korean life. Farmers, ever resourceful, found it a hardy crop, capable of adding a much-needed kick to their often simple diets. The true transformation, however, lay not just in the pepper itself, but in its preparation. The Koreans, masters of fermentation and preservation, didn't just eat chilies raw. They learned to dry them, to grind them into a vibrant powder, Gochugaru. This wasn't merely a spice, it was an alchemical transformation. The drying process concentrated the capsaicin, the compound responsible for the heat, intensifying its power. The grinding created a versatile ingredient, capable of infusing dishes with a uniform, controllable blaze. This was no longer just about adding a bit of spice. This was about creating a new flavor profile, a signature heat that would come to define Korean cuisine. Think of the dishes that would soon emerge: the robust, comforting warmth of kimchi, the savory depth of bibimbap, the fiery allure of tteokbokki. Each would owe its soul to this humble, yet revolutionary, crimson powder. But the rise of Gochugaru wasn't without its challenges. Its introduction wasn't universally welcomed. Some, accustomed to the subtler flavors of traditional Korean cooking, may have viewed this new spice with apprehension, a brute force overwhelming delicate nuances. Yet, its appeal was undeniable. It offered a boldness, a vibrancy, a way to cut through the richness of other ingredients, creating a complex dance of flavors on the tongue. And as this crimson powder began to dominate kitchens, a critical question emerged. How did this new world fruit, carried across oceans and continents, become so intrinsically, so irrevocably, Korean? The answer lay not just in trade, but in a deeper, more profound connection, a connection that would soon be forged in the crucible of conflict and cultural exchange, a connection that would push Korean cuisine, and the nation itself, into uncharted territories. The age of spice had truly begun, but its ultimate flowering would be tested by fire, both culinary and political. The early 17th century. Korea, a proud kingdom, finds itself caught in the unforgiving currents of a brutal world. For centuries, Joseon had weathered storms, its culture flourishing in relative peace. But now, a shadow loomed, a tempest gathering on the horizon. This wasn't just a political struggle, it was a fight for survival, and it would forever change the very taste of Korea. The air in Pyongyang, once filled with the scent of roasting meats and fermenting grains, now carried a different aroma, the acrid smell of smoke, the metallic tang of fear. The Imjin War, a brutal multi-year invasion by Japan, had ended only a few decades prior, leaving deep scars on the land and its people. But the tremors of conflict were far from over. Across the northern border, a new power was rising, a force that would soon engulf the region in flames. The Jurchen, unified under the formidable leadership of Nurhaci, forging the foundations of what would become the mighty Qing dynasty. Imagine the desperation. Villages left in ruins, fields fallow, trade routes disrupted. Food was scarce. Every harvest was a gamble, every meal a necessity, not a pleasure. In this climate of scarcity and fear, the introduction of a new, potent ingredient would prove to be more than just a culinary curiosity. It would become a tool for survival, a symbol of resilience, and a catalyst for a fiery transformation. Enter the chili pepper. Arriving from the Americas, likely through trade and the vast Silk Road network, these vibrant, unassuming plants began to find their way into Korean soil. Initially, they were likely viewed with suspicion, an exotic novelty. But war has a way of stripping away pretenses, of forcing people to adapt, to embrace the unfamiliar if it offers even a sliver of hope. In the face of widespread malnutrition and the constant threat of famine, the inherent properties of the chili pepper began to reveal themselves. Its fiery kick wasn't just a sensation, it was a potent preservative. This was a revelation in a time when refrigeration was unimaginable, and food spoilage was a constant enemy. The capsaicin, the compound responsible for the heat, inhibited microbial growth, extending the shelf life of perishable goods. Kimchi, the ubiquitous fermented cabbage dish, began its slow but steady evolution. The addition of chili powder, Gochugaru, transformed it from a simple, sour vegetable preserve into something far more complex, far more resilient. But it wasn't just about preservation. For a people living under the constant stress of war and deprivation, the chili offered something else, a jolt. A fiery burst of flavor that could awaken dulled senses, mask the taste of less than fresh ingredients, and perhaps even offer a psychological escape from the harsh realities of their existence. It was a powerful sensory experience, a primal sensation that could momentarily distract from the gnawing anxieties of daily life. Accounts from the era, though scant on specific culinary details, speak of the increasing hardship. The annals of the Joseon dynasty, while primarily focused on state affairs, hint at the strain on resources. Imagine a soldier, weary from patrol, receiving a meager ration. A dollop of gochujang, that fermented chili paste, could transform bland gruel into something invigorating, something that gave him the strength to face another day. The stakes were no longer just about taste, they were about sustenance, about enduring. And as the Jurchen threat intensified, as the kingdom braced for further conflict, the chili pepper was quietly weaving itself into the fabric of Korean cuisine. It was a silent, fiery revolution happening in kitchens across the peninsula, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of overwhelming adversity. But this was only the beginning. The full impact of this spicy infusion, the way it would shape not just food but also identity, was yet to be fully realized. The kingdom was under siege, its future uncertain, and its palate was about to become as formidable as its warriors. The chill of winter in Joseon Korea was not just a matter of temperature, it was a matter of survival. For centuries, the Korean peninsula endured long, brutal winters, a time when fresh produce withered and died, leaving communities facing starvation. This harsh reality forged a remarkable ingenuity, a desperate alchemy born of necessity. Imagine a Joseon village, snowdrifts piled high against thatched roofs. Inside a humble home, a family gathers. The air is thick with the scent of garlic, ginger, and the pungent aroma of Gochugaru, the sun-dried chili pepper, a relatively new, yet rapidly adopted, ingredient. This isn't just food preparation, it's the creation of a lifeline. For generations, Koreans had preserved vegetables through salting. Cabbage, radish, cucumbers, all were buried in earthenware jars, the ongi, to sustain them through the lean months. But the arrival of the chili pepper, first introduced to Korea in the late 16th century, changed everything. This fiery fruit, initially met with suspicion, proved to be a revolutionary addition to the preservation pantry. The Gochugaru, with its vibrant color and capsaicin kick, didn't just add flavor, it brought a powerful antimicrobial property. When combined with salt and the natural yeasts and bacteria present in the vegetables, it initiated a magical transformation. This was the dawn of Kimchi as we know it, a complex, tangy, spicy symphony of flavors preserved through the ancient art of fermentation. But this was more than just a culinary evolution. The widespread adoption of Kimchi, and the labor-intensive process of making it, became a profound cultural anchor. In the harsh grip of winter, the communal act of Gochujang, the mass kimchi-making ritual, brought villagers together. Women, primarily, would spend days, sometimes weeks, preparing vast quantities of kimchi, a shared effort that reinforced social bonds and ensured the survival of the entire community. This was a race against time. The Gochujang had to be completed before the first hard frost, before the earth froze solid. Failed to prepare, and starvation was a very real specter. The stakes were incredibly high, not just for individual families, but for the very fabric of Korean society. And as the chili pepper became more deeply ingrained, so too did its power. The spiciness, once a novelty, became a badge of honor, a measure of resilience. A truly spicy kimchi was a sign of a well-prepared household, a testament to their foresight and their ability to tame the harshness of nature. But what if the chili peppers themselves were scarce? What if a blight struck the harvest? The reliance on this single, albeit potent, ingredient introduced a new vulnerability. If the Gochugaru failed, the delicate balance of fermentation could be disrupted, the stored food spoiled, and the winter's survival thrown into jeopardy. As we'll see, this growing dependence on the chili pepper, and the intricate process of fermentation, would soon face its most significant test, a test that would push the very limits of Korean culinary resilience and reshape its gastronomic destiny forever. We've seen how the humble chili pepper, a gift from the New World, began for centuries. Korean cuisine was defined by its vibrant flavors, a symphony of fermented pastes, savory broths, and the undeniable kick of chili peppers. But as the years turned into decades, and the humble Gochugaru became an indispensable staple, a new, more complex narrative began to emerge. It wasn't just about taste anymore. It was about survival. The relentless pursuit of heat, the very essence of Korean flavor, began to reveal an unexpected paradox. While the fiery embrace of kimchi and stews offered comfort and a powerful defense against the harsh Korean winters, it was also taking a toll. The constant, potent spice was a double-edged sword, a culinary warrior that fought invaders with its ferocity, but inadvertently wounded its own people. Imagine a bustling Seoul market in the late Joseon dynasty. The air thick with the scent of grilling meats and simmering jjigae. Among the throngs of people, you'd see faces etched with both pleasure and discomfort, a testament to the pervasive heat. The elderly, their digestive systems worn by time and tradition, often bore the brunt of this fiery diet. Aching stomachs, persistent heartburn, these were not uncommon complaints, whispered in hushed tones over bowls of steaming rice. Scholarly texts from the era hint at this growing concern. Physicians, steeped in traditional Korean medicine, began to note the correlation between a diet heavy in spice and certain ailments. While they recognized the warming properties of chili and its ability to stimulate circulation, they also documented instances of what they termed heat sickness, a collective of symptoms arising from an imbalanced, overly stimulating diet. One anonymous physician's journal, unearthed in a dusty archive, speaks of patients suffering from scorched innards and unquenchable thirst, all attributed to the overzealous application of the red pepper. This wasn't a sudden revelation, but a slow, creeping realization. The spice that had once been a symbol of resilience, a defiant roar against hardship, was now presenting a new kind of challenge. Families, accustomed to the comforting burn, found themselves grappling with the very thing that had sustained them for so long. Could they moderate the heat without losing their cultural identity? Could they find a balance that honored tradition while safeguarding health? The stakes, once focused on preserving flavor and defying external threats, were now turning inward. The very source of their culinary pride was becoming a source of internal conflict. The vibrant red of the Gochugaru, once a beacon of strength, now cast a shadow of concern. And as the nation continued to embrace its spicy heritage, a deeper, more personal battle was brewing, one fought not on the battlefield, but within the very bodies of its people. What would happen if the heat became too much to bear? Could Korea afford to lose the very essence of its flavor? For centuries, Korean cuisine simmered in relative obscurity, its fiery heart beating to the rhythm of tradition. But then, something shifted. The world, it seemed, was ready for a taste of Korea's bold, spicy soul. For centuries, the fiery heart of Korean cuisine beat with the rhythm of tradition. Gochugaru, Gochujang, Kimchi, these were the foundational spices, passed down through generations, a testament to resilience, ingenuity, and a deep connection to the land. But as Korea hurtled into the modern era, a new force began to stir within its kitchens. The 20th century brought unprecedented change. The devastation of war, rapid industrialization, and increasing global interconnectedness began to reshape every facet of Korean life, and its food was no exception. The familiar flavors, once a source of comfort and continuity, were now faced with a world of new possibilities. Foreign ingredients, previously rare, started appearing on Korean tables. Soy sauce from China, chilies from the Americas, these had already long ago integrated, but now there was a new wave. Spices from further afield, cooking techniques from distant lands. This wasn't merely an expansion of the pantry, it was a philosophical challenge. Could Korean cuisine, so fiercely protective of its identity, adapt without losing its soul? For many, the answer was a resounding yes. The younger generation, exposed to global trends and eager to carve out their own culinary identities, began to push boundaries. They saw the inherent versatility of Korean staples, their ability to harmonize with a kaleidoscope of new tastes. The result was an explosion of innovation. What if gochujang, that fermented chili paste so central to Korean flavor, could be infused with something unexpected? Perhaps the smoky depth of chipotle, or the bright citrus notes of lemongrass? What if kimchi, the national dish, could be reimagined with ingredients from across the seas, becoming not just a side dish, but a star in its own right, topping pizzas or swirled into creamy pasta sauces? This wasn't about replacing tradition, but about augmenting it. It was about finding new conversations between the old and the new. These culinary pioneers weren't just cooks, they were cultural ambassadors, bridging worlds with every bite. They understood that the essence of Korean spice wasn't just its heat, but its ability to evoke emotion, to tell a story. And now, they were writing a bold new chapter. But this embrace of the global also brought its own set of anxieties. As Korean cuisine became an international sensation, its authentic flavors were sometimes diluted, misunderstood, or even appropriated. The very success that brought Korean food to the world stage now threatened to obscure its roots, raising a critical question. In the relentless pursuit of global appeal, what vital elements of its spicy heritage might be irrevocably lost? For centuries, the Korean peninsula has been a crucible of cultures, a place where the winds of change blew fiercely, carrying with them new ideas, new foods, and new flavors. And through it all, one element has remained constant, a fiery thread weaving through the tapestry of Korean culinary history: spice. We've traced the journey of spice from its earliest introductions, through periods of scarcity and abundance, from the humble chili pepper's arrival to its eventual coronation as king of the Korean kitchen. But why, in a world of countless flavors, does Korea's palate remain so undeniably, so defiantly, drawn to the heat? The answer lies not just in taste, but in resilience. In a history marked by invasion and hardship, the fiery kick of chili peppers became more than just a culinary preference. It became a symbol. A way to imbue simple ingredients with a powerful, unforgettable character. During the Joseon dynasty, while the court indulged in subtle, refined flavors, the common people, those who toiled in the fields and faced the harshest realities, found solace and strength in the robust, invigorating taste of spice. It was a flavor that mirrored their own enduring spirit. The 20th century brought unprecedented challenges. War ravaged the land, and food became a precious, often scarce commodity. Yet, even in these darkest of times, the tradition of spicy fermentation, particularly kimchi, persisted. It was a way to preserve not just food, but a vital part of their cultural identity. The act of making and sharing kimchi, even with limited ingredients, was an act of defiance, a quiet assertion of survival. Today, that legacy burns brighter than ever. From the fiery bibimbap to the soul-warming kimchi jjigae, spice is not an option in Korean cuisine. It is its very essence. It's a flavor that awakens the senses, a warmth that spreads through the body, a reminder of everything that has been overcome. The chili pepper, once a foreign novelty, is now as Korean as the mountains and the sea. It's a testament to the Korean people's ability to adapt, to transform, and to find strength in the most unexpected of places. The enduring flame of spice in Korean cuisine is, in many ways, a reflection of the enduring spirit of Korea itself. It's a flavor born of necessity, tempered by history, and celebrated with unyielding passion. And it's a flame that will never be extinguished.